Hi, I'm Mr. Pipsley and I'm glad to see you all here on this channel. If you're interested in hearing a story about zombies and how they took over the world, then you're in for a treat. But before I begin, I want to encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. By doing so, you'll be able to stay up to date with all the latest content and never miss out on any exciting stories. So sit back, relax, and let's delve into the world of zombies. I promise it'll be a thrilling ride. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there was a peaceful community of plants who lived happily in their garden. They spent their days basking in the sun, soaking up the rain, and growing into healthy and delicious fruits and vegetables. They never had any reason to worry about anything, until one day, a zombie horde attacked their garden. The zombies were led by a group of undead rugby football players, who had been transformed by a strange virus that had been unleashed on the world. The zombie rugby players were big, strong, and very hungry, and they had set their sights on the plants as their next meal. The plants were in a state of panic. They had never seen anything like this before, and they had no idea how to defend themselves against such a powerful enemy. That is, until a brave potato stepped forward. "Don't worry, my friends," the potato said. "I have a plan." The other plants looked at the potato skeptically, but they were willing to give him a chance. "What's your plan?" asked a cucumber. "We're going to fight fire with fire," the potato replied. "Or in this case, we're going to fight zombies with fruits and vegetables." The other plants were still skeptical, but the potato was determined. He rallied a group of other brave plants, including a corn, a peach, and a banana, and they set about preparing for battle. The potato was in charge of strategy, and he knew that they would need to use their natural strengths if they were going to stand a chance against the zombie rugby players. The corn would use its hard, sharp husks to cut the zombies, while the peach would use its juicy flesh to squirt them in the eyes. The banana would slip and slide around, making it difficult for the zombies to catch it, and the cucumber would use its tough skin to shield the other plants from harm. The potato, meanwhile, would use his round shape to roll around and distract the zombies, leading them away from the other plants. The battle began and was fierce. The zombie rugby players charged at the plants with all their might, but the plants were ready. The corn cut the zombies with its husks, the peach squirted them in the eyes, and the banana slid around, making it impossible for them to get a grip. The cucumber shielded the other plants from harm, while the potato rolled around, leading the zombies in circles. It was a chaotic and intense battle, but the plants were holding their own. Just when it seemed like the tide of the battle was turning in their favor, disaster struck. One of the zombie rugby players managed to grab hold of the peach and take a big bite out of it. The peach's juicy flesh sprayed everywhere, blinding the other plants and making it difficult for them to fight back. The potato knew that they needed to act fast if they were going to survive. He rallied the other plants and came up with a new plan. They would use the remaining fruits and vegetables to create a trap for the zombies. The banana peeled itself and scattered its slippery skin all over the ground, while the corn and cucumber used their sharp husks and tough skin to create a barrier around it. The potato rolled around, luring the zombies in, and the peach used the last of its juice to blind them. The plan worked perfectly. The zombie rugby players charged forward, only to slip and slide in the banana's skin and become entangled in the corn and cucumber barrier. The potato rolled around, distracting them, while the peach's juice blinded them even further. It was a hilarious sight to see, and the plants couldn't help but laugh as they watched the zombies stumble and fall all over the place. Finally, the zombie rugby players realized they had been tricked, but it was too late. They were trapped and at the mercy of the plants. The potato stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "We could eat you," he said, "but we don't want to stoop to your level." The other plants giggled as the zombie rugby players groaned in frustration. Instead, the potato continued, "We have a better idea." He gestured to a nearby field, where a group of humans were playing a game of rugby football. "Why don't you go and join them?" the potato suggested. "They could use some more players, and I'm sure you'll fit right in." The zombie rugby players looked at each other in confusion. They had never heard of rugby football before, but they were intrigued. "Really?" one of them asked. "Absolutely," the potato replied. "You'll have a blast." The zombie rugby players shrugged and decided to give it a try. They stumbled off towards the humans, still dazed from their encounter with the plants. The plants watched as the zombie rugby players joined the game. It was a sight to see, as the undead players stumbled around the field, tripping over each other and scoring goals for both teams. The humans were a bit hesitant at first, but they soon warmed up to the zombie rugby players. They even started calling them the Walking Dead and giving them high fives after a good play. The plants laughed and cheered from the sidelines, happy to have found a way to turn their enemies into friends. As the sun set over the field, the game came to an end. The zombie rugby players were exhausted but happy. They had found a new purpose in life, and they had made some unlikely friends along the way. The plants said goodbye to their new friends and watched as they stumbled off into the distance, still trying to figure out how to properly play rugby football. The potato turned to the other plants with a grin. "Well, that was certainly an interesting day," he said. The other plants laughed and agreed. It had been a day they would never forget. From that day on, the garden was peaceful once again. The plants continued to grow and thrive, and the zombie rugby players continued to play rugby football with the humans. It just goes to show that sometimes even enemies can become friends if given the chance, and sometimes the most unlikely heroes can save the day. But little did anyone know, the zombie rugby players were still carrying a bit of their old habits with them. As they played rugby football with the humans, they couldn't resist the urge to tackle and bite the opposing team members, just like they used to do in their zombie rugby days. At first, the humans were shocked and scared, but as they quickly realized that the zombie rugby players weren't actually trying to eat them, they started to find it funny. Soon, the tackles and bites became a sort of comedic relief in the game, and everyone would cheer and laugh whenever a zombie rugby player would launch themselves at a human player. Meanwhile, in the garden, the plants were still growing and thriving. The cucumber had finally found its true calling as a makeshift goalpost, and the corn was now able to produce a higher yield of kernels thanks to its new zombie friends, fertilizing the soil with their undead flesh. But as the days went by, something strange began to happen. The peach and banana noticed that the cucumber was starting to grow bigger and bigger, until it was almost as tall as the corn stalks. They had never seen anything like it before. "What's happening to the cucumber?" asked the banana, confused. "I have no idea," replied the peach, "but it looks like it's going to burst." And burst it did. The cucumber suddenly split open, revealing a strange green gas that began to fill the garden. The plants tried to run, but the gas quickly enveloped them, causing them to collapse to the ground. The zombie rugby players, who had been playing rugby football with the humans nearby, noticed the strange green gas and rushed over to investigate. As they approached the garden, they realized that their old enemies, the zombies, were rising from the ground once again. But these weren't just any ordinary zombies. They were plant zombies, with leaves and vines sprouting from their undead bodies. The zombie rugby players knew they had to act fast. They quickly formed a huddle and came up with a plan. They would use their rugby football skills to outmaneuver the plant zombies and knock them down. It was a tough fight, but with the help of the humans who had joined the fray after the initial shock of seeing plant zombies wore off, the zombie rugby players were able to defeat the plant zombies and save the garden. As the sun set over the garden, the zombie rugby players and the humans gathered around the fallen plants. They were worried that their friends might be gone forever. But then, to everyone's surprise, the fallen plants began to twitch and shudder. Slowly but surely, they began to rise from the ground, their leaves and vines twisting and turning. The potato grinned from ear to ear. "I told you they were special," he said to the zombie rugby players. The plants had been transformed into something new, something even more powerful than before. They had become plant zombies, with the ability to walk and talk, and even play rugby football. The banana shook his head in disbelief. "I never thought I'd say this, but I think I prefer the plant zombies to the regular plants." The peach chuckled. "I think we all do," he said. And so the garden was saved once again, thanks to the unlikely heroes of the zombie rugby players and the plant zombies. They continued to play rugby football together, both on and off the field, and they lived happily ever after. The end. Well, the story has come to an end. I am sure you liked this story, and you will like it with pleasure. Also subscribe to our channel and be sure to leave your feedback in the comments under this video. See you in the next video.